Welcome, Solarah here. I hope you guys are doing well today. Happy full moon as I record this video. We're about 3 hours out from the full moon in Scorpio if you follow tropical astrology, and as I speak I am uploading the full moon in Scorpio Tarotstrology Ascension report. That's going up on my other channel, Solarah Rises, so if you're interested in hearing the channeled messages and the astrology and tarot and numerology energies I was picking up behind this full moon and how it pertains to Ascension, please feel free to check it out on my other channel. I'll try to remember to put the link below, but it will definitely be also on the community board. Likewise, if you just prefer to read about what it is I've written, that is also available on my Substack. It's open to all. I've done another collaborative full moon reading with Dimi Peachel of the Starfire Codes. Dimi and I do these collaborations every new and full moon. On the new moon, she posts our articles, our collaboration together on her Substack, and on the full moon I post our collaboration on my Substack. So please make sure to check it out, check out Dimi's work, show her some love also. And yes, so I can't stay for long, and I'm actually kind of serious about that today. When I say not long, I mean maybe 30 minutes. But I wanted to get on here and do share the downloads I've been getting. So if you have been on the community board, then you will see that I wrote a brief little blurb this morning about some of the downloads I had been receiving. And so to backtrack, I woke up at 2:44 in the morning and all of a sudden started to get downloads, and so I wanted to come on here and share them with you, the downloads I was receiving, and I shared a little bit in that blurb on the community board, but I'll go a little bit deeper with some of the exact downloads that I was getting this morning in the early hours of the morning. But before I do that, I want to take the opportunity to welcome you. Welcome if you're visiting for the first time. Welcome if you are returning. You're all welcome here for as long as you're vibing with me, not only the message I give, but also my frequency, just because that's an important part of the receiving of the message and the activations that come forth through the exchange. So I will always say, if you're not vibing with me, that's cool. I'm not for everyone. I hope you find someone who is sharing the message you need, that also you're on the same frequency with too. Okay, so what else? Quick announcements. There are still spaces available for this Saturday's small group session with me, Road Back to Wholeness. That group is reserved for people who want to do more like one-to-one soul recovery, but within a group setting, especially when it comes to dealing with a lot of the material shifts, the bodily shifts, the reuniting with our bodies, and the utilizing the power of nature, nutrition, herbs, etc., in order to anchor ourselves back into healthy relationship with our bodies. That's a very big theme for many beings right now. A lot of purging going on in the physical body, a lot of anchoring our power back into the physical body, and having things that can't stay there anymore pop up. So we delve into that however it pertains to you within that group. And so there are a few more spaces for this Saturday. The 27th of April, I believe. It's either 10 or 11 a.m. I think it's 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but I'll put all the information in the description box below. Likewise, I have my monthly Tarotstrology group Q&A happening on Sunday, April the 28th, I believe at the same time, also 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For this month's Tarotstrology group Q&A, we are delving into Mars. Your Mars placement. I will be channeling your Mars placement. You know, the messages around who you are and how Mars is expressing itself through you cosmologically, and what that has to do with your galactic story, as well as taking a look a little bit more at what Mars is doing right now through the Ascension and what Mars is doing. Mars has a very big role right now in this Ascension, whether it's he's expressing himself planetarily or through the Scorpio and the Aries energy, and The 2024 energy is connected to Scorpio themes also. So Mars has a big place right now in helping to reestablish our defense, our natural defense mechanisms, whereby our electromagnetic fields, our personal ones, as well as the electromagnetic field of the Earth, is now free to expel and repel that which does not support our own harmony, and to call in that which does. Okay, so Mars is big on teaching us how to return to that state. That's kind of the job that Mars is doing right now. Okay, so we will be focusing on that this Sunday, and there are still spaces available. I will put all the information for that in the description box below and the comment section. Okay, so the downloads, onto the downloads I got. So the first thing I heard was, you've waited many lifetimes for this moment. You've waited many lifetimes for this moment. You have endured injustice after injustice, but your soul knew this day would come. And so what this is in the context of this is, you've waited many, many lifetimes for this moment. So I've spoken about how 2024, energetically speaking, is about getting to the root and the seed point of an energy, right? Of the energy that allowed for the false matrix to exist in the first place and to persist. So I've spoken to you guys before in previous videos about how energies enter in at the same point that they leave, and it's very much like the way we observe the hour on a clock. So whenever the big hand on the clock gets to the 12, we enter into a new hour and we leave the previous hour, but we leave the previous hour at the same point on the clock that we enter into the new hour. That's how energy cycles work. The same way an energy enters tends to be the same way it leaves, or the same way a cycle begins. The same themes, energies, if that cycle is to close out, they will come back into your reality for closure. Okay, they have to be closed out by you as a sovereign being, especially the more ingrained you are in the cycle. Okay, and when I mean it has to be closed out by you, I'm not saying you just stand up and you say no, because many beings can do that. Your frequency must match the reality that you are graduating into from that cycle. So the karmic cycles that we have found ourselves stuck in, yes, they were wrongly wrought against us, but we are responsible for the fact that we stayed in them so long because we supported lies, narratives, stories about ourselves. We supported those things and we believed them about ourselves long enough to keep ourselves stuck. Our responsibility for closing out cycles, being in cycles, moving forward, it's always fallen on us. Right now, you can argue, of course, that with all of the karmic fuckery and the shenanigans, there's been a lot of energy work and spell work at play to keep us blinded, and that would be absolutely true too. And yet, even still, with that blindness, nobody can break us out of that cycle but us. That's why it's so important that we wake up and we begin to see, right? So the context of this is that this is a really big karmic cycle that has to come to an end now because of where we are on ascension. And the reason it has to come to an end, and the reason why it's so gnarly, is because this is a story that's been repeating itself, with you, quote unquote, losing since the previous golden age. In other words, this has been a showdown between you and certain energies across eras. Okay, whether this energy has been presenting itself through a human soul, or whether it's been presenting itself through a consciousness or an entity, or all of the above, because we know that certain consciousnesses and entities work through various beings. But for many of you, this is like some kind of contract you've had with a human soul that has continually, lifetime after lifetime, used you as collateral to pay off debts or to tap into things that they wanted to obtain materially. And because of the wealth your soul holds and the loss of resources they hold cosmologically due to this fuckery. Because that's what happens. The more you do this to other beings, what you're actually doing it, people think that they're doing it to other people. it's never that. Whatever you do to someone else, you're ultimately doing to yourself. So when beings are choosing to try and sacrifice other beings, they're actually sacrificing their own rank, right? And for as long as the beings that they're sacrificing are unaware and they are aligning their energy, their belief in themselves with the story, or they're kept completely blinded to what is going on, and then kept at a low frequency to maintain the standards around the sacrifice. For as long as that's happening, the other person, the other energy, entity, being, whatever, who is enforcing these sacrifices, they are they're benefiting materially, but their souls are perishing. They're losing their resources, they're losing their ranking, they're losing their frequential wealth. So either way, they are losing eternally, even if in a short span of time, you know, they're a lifetime, it appears that they're accruing something. Nothing on this realm that we see materially can we take with us anywhere. It's all just show. Even this whole idea of legacy and passing material shit on to those who come after us. It's helpful, but it's not like, it still does not measure against the eternal wealth that we have cosmologically. This is just a blip in time. Our eternal truth is sustained off of who we are. In terms of the resources we hold, based upon the choices we've made that have allowed our souls to evolve or stay at in a higher state, and based upon our own soul evolution and our soul's worth. I hope that makes sense. So, closing out a karmic era with these beings. That's what was coming through. You are closing out a karmic era. Not a cycle, not a lifetime, not even a couple of lifetimes. This is like previous golden age. This has been a story that you keep on cycling through and not triumphing because of the craziness and the fuckery of the Matrix and how it was rigged to keep you enslaved. Yes? So another message that was coming through was they really tried to take you out and thought that this eclipse cycle would finish you. Okay, so there's, and it's not just this. When I say the eclipse cycle, I'm not talking about the most recent eclipses in the past couple of weeks. I'm talking about the cycle that opened up in Scorpio. I think it was Scorpio season that it was the first eclipse window. I believe so. That eclipse window, since the node shifted out of Scorpio and Taurus into Aries and Libra. The first eclipse cycle that began last autumn, if you're in the northern hemisphere, there was something very big that occurred around that time, and I've been picking up on this energy slightly, in other readings. I've talked about it, the importance of Scorpio season and how the attacks heightened. But if you've been following me for a while, you'll know that around that time also my guides had me retreating back from being too invested in those energies and more focused on ascension. And I see now why, because although all of this was happening, they didn't want us, a lot of us, getting lost in the details and creating more of the story. Okay, so what I mean by that is that during Scorpio season there was a very big death ritual that occurred, if this is your reading, okay? A death ritual that came in through the eclipse of the new moon in Scorpio time frame, and was supposed to, over the succession of the months that led up to this full moon, and through the eclipse that led up to this full moon, was supposed to kind of wipe you out. That's what I was getting, okay? But guides didn't want the focus on that for obvious reasons, because there was also a shift what you need to understand and understand is that Scorpio season is always a season where I call it the spiritual black market things happen. I wrote a lot about it and even, spoke about it on here, like the spiritual black market affairs that occur through the Scorpio energy, right? So that kind of behavior is always going on during Scorpio season. But because we're dealing with eclipse energy and because of where we are in this ascension, and because we're dealing with the wiping out of the seed point of the energy that made the false matrix and all its cycles, including its quantum entanglement and karmic agendas possible, because we're dealing with that, this last Scorpio season that opened, I think it was with an eclipse and the new moon in Scorpio, all the way up to this eclipse cycle, and the full moon in Scorpio was really going to be very intense for those of you who have been closing out karmic stories that began with the inception point of the false matrix. This is why some of you felt it so much more heavily, and it was necessary. This is what I need you to know. It's always necessary because the attacks are the activations, and without that energy returning back to you in the same way that it entered your reality in the beginning, back in the previous golden age, which for many of you it began with a lot of death magic. If that's how it's closing out, that's how it began, because this time around you had to overcome. You had to overcome to close out the era of the cycle that began when it first took you out at the previous, the close of the previous golden age. Okay? Also, another thing that's coming through, not your funeral, not your death sentence. Not your funeral, not your death sentence. So whoever tried to proclaim that over you, that they tried to proclaim over you, they've only proclaimed over themselves now, because you're no longer a sacrificial lamb. The whole point of the matrix system was to create scapegoats, sacrificial lambs that they could put their sins on, they could put their low energy resources upon, so that they could harness and harvest from the being that they were making a scapegoat or a sacrificial lamb. Because, and I explained this in the last video, you can check that out if you want more information about this, but the way the earth was properly secured, in the sense that we didn't need policing, everything stayed where it was supposed to stay, was based upon frequency. So lower consciousnesses cannot live in high frequency zones because their energy didn't support their existence. So they couldn't survive or thrive in high frequency energies. And just like that, high frequency beings, while we can visit lower frequencies, we can't stay there because our frequency does not agree with living in a lower consciousness either. Which is why for many of you, because you're high frequency beings and you came into the matrix and it's a lower frequency, this is why you've struggled and you've suffered. But the powers that were the architects of the false matrix saw that as an opportunity, because if they could lower you into this reality and have you suffer, they could also feed off of your pain. Okay, and it would be rich because of who you are cosmologically, which I've talked about in other readings before. And we know that emotional energy is the highest form of currency because it's the emotional energy that controls the grid lines and therefore the entirety of the frequencies necessary to sustain this planet, for better or for worse. So the only way they were able to keep the planet at the low frequency they needed in order to control us all was by keeping us emotionally trapped and stuck, repeating lower vibrational realities, so that we were constantly feeding the grids our fear, our guilt, our shame, our depression, all manner of energies that we're not supposed to be producing around the clock, but they needed us to be in that way in order to control us, in order to create the false ranking system within the matrix that they needed in order to create their pyramid Ponzi scheme, as I like to say, where a few of them were living off the hog, kind of energy, and then the majority of us were the ones that they were siphoning off of. Beginning with wounding us as children, because the way that they were able to swap their realities for ours and to keep the matrix going was by feasting off of not only sacrifice energy, but very specifically wounded child energy, because children's energy is pure. Okay, so if you can, sacrifice, if you can dabble in that in real time, it has spiritual repercussions that they wanted. But on a grander scale, if you can energetically do that to the masses, meaning injure us all as children, then you can feed off of our pain for a lifetime, because what we establish in childhood, in our formative years, our behaviors, our patterns, our emotional resonance tends to be what we play out again and again and again, for as long as we're stuck in a lower frequency, if that makes sense, okay? So it says, not your funeral, not your death sentence. The spell energy can't touch you because you wouldn't let it. Okay, you may have been struggling, suffering since Scorpio season last year. You may be one of those beings that has been under severe attack, purging, activating, however you want to look at it. I see it as activations. Every time an attack comes, an attack can only harm you in a place where you still have false matrix energies that need to be exposed. An attack can only harm you in places where you still have false matrix energies that you need exposing. Okay, I'm going to say it one more time, one more again. An attack can only harm you in places where you need to see that you're still harboring false matrix, imposter energies, invader energies, what's the other word? I can't remember the word, but the programs, the spells. Remember, I've said to you guys from the beginning, a spell cannot have any effect if it doesn't have the food within your fields to eat upon. Meaning that if somebody's trying to attack your finances, the only way that energy can root into your reality and materialize is if it can find the lack stories and the issues you have around your own worth and how that translates to money. That's the energy it grabs a hold on in your reality to mentally cause you to feed the energy of the spell and for it to keep going. But the minute that you start to connect with your true worth and your true value, your divine net worth and who you actually are, when beings try to send you spells to block your finances, they no longer can stick. So every attempt where they've tried to send you a spell to try to take you under, all it does is it exposes and reveals to you those hidden energies and enemies and where they're still lurking in your field so that you can purge them the fuck out, or you can make peace with them as being a part of yourself you've rejected if it's part of your shadow. Whatever it is you have to do to calibrate yourself back into wholeness and into truth so that those energies, those spells can no longer penetrate your reality to begin with. And this is where, again, the Mars energy is helping us in this. The more we come into our truth, the more our natural defense mechanisms return. Okay, so the more that we stand in our value and who we are truthfully, frequentially, not just spouting shit, but actually embodying it, the less it's possible for energies that are trying to fuck with your money and with your flow to be able to have any effect anymore. Okay, it's always been a frequency game. Always. They could not enact their spell work and get you to materialize it without your consent. Now, it was unconscious, it was based upon wounding, it was based upon all of that stuff, but it was still because you are in charge of your own energy and reality and have always been. You know, it's part of your divine gifting and responsibility. Because of that, you were, by not knowing how to protect yourself, you were opening yourself up. We all were, right? And this is why now it's so important that we take full accountability, full responsibility for the wholeness of who we are, so that nothing that aims to take us out of harmonious union with self is able to do that again. Because it's the not being in harmonious union with self in all ways that allows for these energies to come in and latch on to those separation energies within. Disease, illness is about being out of union with our physical body, being out of union even with ourselves. I was just going over this with my two kids in homeschooling. We were talking about the body and how amazing it is that, you know, you can decide, I want to move my finger. And at that point, well, before that, millions of neurons will come together and decide she wants to move her finger. Let's all fire together to make sure that happens. And it all happens in like not even a split second. All of this is happening, and they're all working together in order to get you to do what it is you want to do or what it is you need to do. Because your cells work when you are in health and your body is functioning correctly. All of your cells are in harmonious union and conversation, doing everything that they're supposed to do to revitalize you, to keep you regenerating yourself. You weren't designed to die from disease and dysfunction and degeneration. That shows you that the cellular communication is down. They're not all talking together. They're not all working together anymore symbiotically. Something is going on. There's a foreign invader. The conditions are not there for them to communicate properly. Something is going on with the cellular communication, because all your cells, all trillions, however many cells make you up, trillions of them, they all talk. They all communicate with one another, and they're actually, and this is really cool, your cells are sentient. They think and they feel as individuals too. Very cool. I will go down a rabbit hole that I don't have time to go down today, but it's just it's when you think about who you are, even if you can't yet connect with the fullness of your beauty in terms of your talents and your gifts, if you can only connect with one thing, connect with the beauty of your fucking body. Because your body from second to second is like doing things for you that if you had to sit down and think to do, you'd be exhausted. You know, just thinking about it, let alone doing it. And all of this is happening in perfect syncopation within your body, because that's how fucking amazing and magical you are. You know, there's a verse in the Bible. When I used to be a Christian, I love this psalm, I think it was Psalm 139. And it goes, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, and it speaks about how even like God's thoughts towards you outnumber the grains of sand on the beach. It speaks about the beauty of your existence and how you were never an afterthought. You were carefully put together with a purpose, right? Carefully thought of. You weren't an accident, right? And that's what that psalm really speaks about. And when I really begin to delve into the true beauty of human biology and even quantum physics and how it's all interconnected, yeah, you are no accident. You are definite, and nothing you do is accidental. Everything is like this. There's this order to you. And if you could even begin to scrape the surface of the beauty of that order, you would be in awe of yourself. You should be in awe of yourself. Okay, so I had an aunt that always used to, speaking of scripture, she always used to speak this verse when when talking about me and my position in my family, and I never got it until, you know, years later, but she always used to quote this verse. She said, the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. The stone, and this is, I believe this is something that Jesus said, I think this is in the red writing, the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, right? So that's speaking about you are the stones that the builders of the old world have rejected. The architects of the false matrix, they always fake rejected you, when always you were the cornerstone upon which everything was built. And you're about to be the foundation upon which everything for the new earth is built, but properly this time, right? So the other download that was coming through is that you are the new foundation. You are the new foundation. So for those of you who haven't or won't be checking out my full moon in Scorpio Tarotstrology Ascension Report, I talk about this energy of foundations, of the setting of foundations that is coming through this full moon in Scorpio. There's a setting of foundations and the clearing away of the old foundation that supported even the beginning and the inception point of the false matrix. So there's a clearing away of a foundation to make way for a new one, and the new foundation is you. You've always been the salt of this earth. You know, I read about that in Daily Alchemy yesterday. I think it's still available. It's open to everyone. So I think so, if that's the one. Anyway. You are the new foundation, and you're being broken in as the old one is cleared. So for those of you who are vibing with the reading I did, I think it was Sunday, a few days ago, where I was talking about being backed in the same corner as other beings and how it's a collective energy that we're all experiencing very similar circumstances, but we're being set up in those circumstances for different reasons. Some beings are being set up in those circumstances to be propelled deeper into the 3D old world reality that they've chosen for themselves, where they will continue to self-destruct, while others are being pulled back into that reality to be catapulted all the more forcefully into the new world, into the new earth, right? Okay, so whatever circumstances you are being presented with that are designed to lower you in frequency to get you stuck in the old world, the more powerful that resistance is, the more you push against it in your truth, the farther you catapult yourself forward into the very place that they were trying to put that resistance up to keep you out of, if that makes sense. And that's that Sagittarius energy of the Archer. So we got the next full moon in Sagittarius is going to be helping with that, pushing you where it is you belong in accordance with your own set of beliefs about yourself now, versus the programs that of the old matrix that you have said, you know, go fuck yourself, fuck off. I'm not going to be programmed by external programmers anymore. I'm my own chief programmer. Okay, yes. So it says your circumstances right now will look and feel similar. But the reason for that, okay, I've got to get going in 2 minutes. Your circumstances right now will look and feel similar, but the reason for that is that birth and death are the same. They're the same energy, and that's what Scorpio shows us. They are both the energy of the void. Birth is coming forth from the void, death is returning to the void. You are the birthing energy of the new age, and others are going into the death phases of the dying out of the old world. It's one and the same. For something to be born, something must die. It's the same energy, just on different ends of the polarity. It's all void energy. This is important for you to know. It's all the void, the black hole, the nothingness, the energy that was activated through the eclipse window when I was talking about black neutron star beings, and how you're a being who holds a frequency where others come to you for cycles to die. That's how powerful the energy is that some of you embody and have been reactivated into through this eclipse, right? that is because you hold very powerful void energy, right? And this is what, this is where birth and death are connected. Like I said, birth comes forth from the void and goes forward. Death is returned to the void to be, recycled, transmuted, whatever's going to happen with that energy. And it's going to depend on many things. I'm not going to go into all of that right now. But know that the birth and the death energy are the same. It's just opposite poles. So this is why your circumstances right now will feel very similar to those who they're going back to the void, but they're going to the void because there's something that's dying, versus going to the void because something is being birthed. That makes sense. And so another message that was coming through is the mothers are lifting us out of obscurity again. The mothers are lifting us up out of obscurity again. And these are the mothers that are part of that void energy. They are the dark mother emblems of the Divine Mother. So when you think about them in terms of deities, they would be like, hold on a second. I'm recording. Thank you. They would be like your Kali Ma, like Medusa, like Lilith. These are the dark feminine energies that the false matrix constantly denigrated and made beings afraid of, and put a lot of fear stories around who they were, when really they are the feminine warriors. They're the ones that war to bring us back into our power. And the only way to come back into our power is when we're no longer afraid to go into the depths of the darkness within our own shadows, within our own souls. And these are our greatest companions on that journey, that shadow work, which is, again, it's very scorpionic in nature, right? These are the energies that are bringing us out of oblivion, helping us to rise back into our power. This full moon in Scorpio, there's a lot of powering back up energy that's coming forth. And it was initiated with the new moon in Scorpio, with those Phoenix activations that were coming through. And now through this full moon in Scorpio, a cycle of completion, it's like it's being anchored into the grids now. There's a powering up that's happening, and it is courtesy of those aspects of the Divine Mother that is helping to lift us up out of oblivion. Okay, so lift you up out of the darkness that you never should have really been in to begin with, but also we consented to for as long as we weren't connecting with the fullness of the length, the breadth, the width of who we are, the lowest of energies that we embody, in terms of our shadow, and the highest of energies and realities we also embody in our God power, right? So when we're rejecting any aspect of self, high or low, we are not able to connect with the fullness of the all. And when we cannot connect with the fullness of the all and with the oneness of everything, then we are not able to properly we're not able to properly rise. We're not able to properly be powered up into our real frequency. Being in our true frequency requires that we accept the fullness of who we are again, on all levels, all dimensions, right? And then this was the last thing that came through, the last download. A truly strong person doesn't derive their strength from making others feel weak. So I think this was like speaking about like the shift in leadership and leadership consciousness from the old world into the new. So in the old world, a lot of the posturing around strength was all about making others feel weak in order for the ego to be inflated, and beings could appear as if they were higher, right? But we know that energy don't lie. So while that worked in the false matrix, that frequency fuckery can't sustain itself. in the true earth, right? So a truly strong person doesn't derive their strength from making others feel weak. Instead, they locate the strength in another and magnify it back so it appreciates them in their value. So this is also speaking about, and this will become more of a theme in Gemini season and Sagittarius season, this is about the false mirroring programs that happen within the matrix due to all of our woundedness. Meaning that, and all of us are aware of this, there were so many instances where beings tried to get involved with us, with you, whether it was friendships, romance, business, because they saw something in you. They saw a strength. And instead of helping you to cultivate it and to grow it and magnify it, they got close enough to you in order to diminish you so they could build themselves up falsely by tearing you down out of any confidence you might have around knowing this about yourself. Or even for some of you, you weren't even aware that you had this, and they wanted to keep you asleep to this because for as long as you didn't know, they could control you, etc., etc. Y'all know all of the karmic stories and fuckery, right? So in true divine alignment, when you are walking in accordance with your own home frequency and therefore magnetizing in those that also carry that matching frequency, then the way that you're working with beings is that everyone is magnifying one another's strength and helping to appreciate the other in value, because there's no more of that pettiness, and there's no more of the covert competition that the false matrix not only amplified, but it seeded in us. It did that on purpose. It did that on purpose because for as long as it could do that, it could keep its pyramid system where it only allows some people into the club, right? And then it perpetuates that narrative throughout all of its media. That's what all of these stories are about that you see in films. It's a coming of age, it's culture, about all of the you can't sit with me at the table, and I'm a cheerleader or a jock and I'm cool and you're not, etc. All of those narratives that were planted into us, into our consciousness through media, through socialization, through the schooling systems, etc. It was all designed so that we would put some beings on a pedestal and worship them and envy them and also want to pull them down at the same time. It was designed to create that separation where some were on top and others were on the bottom. But the reality is everyone was in the same boat because we were all being manipulated and controlled out of our power, right? So yes, I've got to run. So I hope that that was helpful. Those downloads helped you tonight. I'm wishing you guys all a really beautiful full moon in Scorpio. Again, if you'd like to join me for my small group session on Saturday or my Tarotstrology group Q&A on Sunday, all the information for how you can book and book will be in the description box and the comment section below. If you would like to donate to the channel, both my PayPal and Ko-Fi are in the description box below. I want to thank all of you who've made generous donations to the channel, and for those of you who've chosen or opted to donate for my egg cleansing magic manual and my 2024 full ascension astrology Tarotstrology report, which I have opened up to the collective for free, but some of you have opted to actually donate and to pay for it. So I'm really grateful because you didn't have to, and that was really kind of you. And some of you have been really just very, very kind, and I just want you to know that I truly do appreciate it. I do, and it helps me to show up here and to do what it is I came here to do, and to bring order back into my life so that I can be all it is that I came here to be, not only for myself but also for the collective. So I thank you. It means more than I think often meets the eye. Thank you. What else? If you'd like to learn about how you can work or book with me, you can check out my website, solarah.info. yeah, that's it, I think. I will see you guys again soon. I'm sorry for the brevity of the video, but I didn't want to keep on putting this off for another few days to come and do a longer video. I wanted to just get this information out there once and for all. So yeah, I'm sending you guys so much love. I'll see you again soon. Take care.